Today, I'm going to be answering your questions about starting and building the crochet business of your dreams. And I'll also be sharing the one mistake that I see almost everyone do when they are starting their crochet business, and I did it too. And once you understand how important this concept is, you will be well on your way to making money with crochet. And at the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing my personal journey from how I went from not knowing how to run a business at all, let alone a crochet business, to now I am making a full-time income as a crochet creator. And I am going to be sharing so many resources, and I'm going to link them all in the description box below. The first question is from Josie, and I think it's a really good one to start our conversation. Where do I start? I want to run a crochet blog and YouTube and post my designs, but I'm scared. It's hard to get over the fear of posting when you have no followers and looking silly just posting to yourself. Help! Josie, this is the biggest reason why I think people are held back from starting the crochet business of their dreams. We have all felt it. And here is my best tip for you. You just have to do it. You have to get over being scared. You just have to do it. You're going to be scared. What's the worst that can happen? You make a fool of yourself? Guess what? I've made a fool of myself so many times. Just get over it and just accept the fact that you may feel silly in the beginning. Trust me, I still feel silly sometimes. Once you start to be brave enough to put yourself out there, you're going to find more support than you ever thought was possible. We all think that people are just going to make fun of us. That's rarely the case. Another similar question came from Libby Bloom. She asked, possibly if you have any tips to help a busy stay-at-home mom as well, LOL. Also, I have no idea on how shipping and packaging process works, so if you have anything, you can share on that too. My best advice is to just take it one step at a time. It can be really overwhelming when you think about all the things that you need to learn how to run a business, but I learned one thing at a time. So identify the things that you need to learn and just go through that list. So if you need to learn about shipping, you can just Google it. It really isn't difficult. And one thing that I would highly recommend is to look into the Crochetpreneur website. That is run by Pam Grice, and she has so many great free resources. She also has a course that I took, and I wish that I had taken it way earlier in my business. It would have helped me so much. But there are a lot of resources on her website, on her YouTube channel, and she has a podcast. So I'm going to link to all of those in the description box below. Another common question came from Michelle. I would like to know how to not lose the joy of creating once this passion becomes a business. I'm a creative at heart and know that I really don't enjoy the day-to-day aspects of running a business. One thing that has really helped me is that I see running a business as another creative endeavor. There are so many creative aspects about running a business. I have to create graphics all of the time. I need to make videos, create patterns. All of those things are very creative processes. But there are some things that are tedious, that aren't super fun, like maybe tracking your finances. And for those types of things, I try to find a way to automate them. So you can use things like QuickBooks. I use a program called Xero. Find ways to automate the things that you don't really like doing. Think of your business as another creative outlet. The next question is from Anna Meek. I hope that I am pronouncing your name correctly. The taxes and administration side of things scare me a bit. I really understand that because before 2023, I was pretty loosey-goosey about my business, and one of the reasons was I was terrified to even think about it. But I decided back in January of 2023 to stop being scared of this and figure it out. And I went ahead and got my own separate bank account for my business expenses. Before that, I just had them all combined with our personal, and it was just a jumbled up mess. I also set up my business as an LLC, which stands for Limited Liability Company. In the United States, it costs $125 to do this. And basically what it does is it separates you personally from your business from a legal standpoint. But one of the other things that I would highly recommend is a book by a man named Mike Michalowicz, who wrote a book called Profit First. I read this book over the summer, and it helped me to organize my finances for my business, and it has been a total game changer for me. It has helped me to know how much to pay myself, how much I need to set aside for taxes, and also how to run a profit in my business. This is so important. I highly recommend this book. And if you're in the United States, or if you want to travel to the United States, in April, there's going to be the Crochet Business Summit. This is going to be an in-person event hosted by Pam Grice of Crochetpreneur. Now, this has been an online event for the past few years, but now we get to meet in person, and I would love to see you there. And I will leave a link for the Crochet Business Summit in the description box below. The next question is from Alana Thompson. She asked, how heavy-handed would this be for a paralytic? How much running around do you have to do? And Alana, I am here to tell you that I mostly sit in my office. A lot of what I do is on the computer or behind a camera. So honestly, I think that this would be a great business for someone who is in a wheelchair, who has any kind of mobility issues. I actually think that this would be the perfect business because I rarely leave my house for business purposes at all. I really wouldn't need to if I never wanted to because it's almost all done on the computer. The next question is from Melinda, and she asked, how do you keep your morale up when things get hard or illness comes into play? I very much relate to this question, and I know that when things are crazy, when there's illness or there's some type of hardship going on in your family, it can be so difficult to concentrate on things like crochet or running a business. But one thing that I did was that when I started my business, I treated it very seriously, even when I was making zero money. I have no idea where I got this from, but I once heard someone say that when you start a business, treat it as though you were already making a full-time income. And I have always, since the day I started it, treated it like it was my job, like I was working for someone else. So I've talked about this, and I don't know how healthy it's been, but I will say that even when the stressful times have come, even when my son was in the hospital, I was working. I committed to this business because I knew that this was going to be the best way for me to help my family, was to be able to have a job that was super flexible. I could be here for anything that came up, but that I could still earn an income for my family. I do understand, but if you're going to make this your business, you have to treat it like a business. The next question is from Maria Freeman. How much time per day are you crocheting? How do you start sharing your work in the beginning? I'm a busy mom with 4 kids, ages 4 and under, but I love your videos and your work. I need to make more time to crochet because I love it. I have only done 1 craft fair and I sold nearly all my inventory, but I know I underpriced things because I wanted to please my audience at the time. Maria, it sounds like you're doing everything right. I'm also a mom of 4 kids, and I remember those crazy days when they were all small. I didn't have them quite as close together as you have, but I did have 4 kids in 6 years. I wish that I had started a business back when my kids were small, but I never even thought about it. I would highly encourage you to listen to Lisa Bass's story. She is the creator of Farmhouse on Boone. I've taken 2 of her courses, the Create Your Blog Dream course and her YouTube Success Academy course, and I will leave links to both of those in the description box below. But she also has some videos on her YouTube channel about how she started her business. Back when she started, she had 4 young children, and she worked in the evenings and on the weekends when her husband was home. Eventually, within about 2 years, they replaced her husband's income, and he eventually retired from his job and came to help her with the children. They now have 7 or 8 children, and they run their business as a family, and it's very profitable for them. So it can be done, but it's going to take a lot of hard work and dedication. But if you want to do that, I am here to support you. The next question is, have you ever sold on Etsy? And if so, is it a good choice? Some people say that it is good to start out with, but later on you need to get out of it because of all the fees. What is your opinion? I think selling on Etsy is a fantastic idea. Yes, there are fees associated with selling on Etsy, but I don't know of any platform where you don't have to pay a fee to sell. Even if it's on your own shop, you're still going to pay fees to host that shop. Over 460 million customers come to Etsy every single month looking for handmade and unique items. Because Etsy is drawing so many people to its website, it is worth it to me to pay those fees. Now, I also do sell on Ravelry and I have my own shop, but I will continue to sell on Etsy because of the access to customers that would never find me otherwise. The next question is from E.B. Wilson. I'm trying to figure out which would be the most cost-effective, least time-consuming items to sell to the public. I enjoy crocheting plushies, but I think I'd be faster at making scarves, hats, and baby items. Is it better in the long run to create what you love or create what's fast/simple? When I was selling finished items, for me, it was extremely important that I made what I loved. Now, if I was going to do markets, I might do a combination of things that I could quickly get done and some plushies and some amigurumi toys. I think the most important thing is to figure out what motivates you. If you're like me, what motivates me is creating what I love. I will not do things if I don't love them, just to be completely honest. I've always been stubborn like that. But there are some people who are very motivated by thinking about how much money they could make. So I think you have to ask yourself, what's going to be more motivating? Creating things that you love and imagining your market or your online shop with all of the things that you have made and they're all plushies and little amigurumi toys? Or are you going to be more motivated by seeing the money that rolls in from creating objects that you can make quickly so that you have more things to sell? The next question is from Kate Workman. What are the costs associated with starting a business? How do you keep your motivation up for completing orders? How do you know the time frame to give people before you have something done to send it? Or do you always only sell completed items? What are some things to search for or be aware of if you want to open a physical store? I had very little costs when I started my business. At first, I was just selling finished toys and I already had a little bit of yarn, so I would make some money and buy more yarn and more supplies, more polyfill stuffing. And eventually I made enough money that I began to invest in courses to learn how to run a business because I have zero background in running a business. I was a homeschool mom for 20 years and I had no clue how to do social media, YouTube, a blog. I had no idea how to do any of that. So I started to reinvest in myself. And when I was selling finished items, I did it two different ways. At one point, I was doing custom orders. Someone would give me an order and then I would make the toy, but I would always give myself at least 2 weeks to be able to get the item to them. These were typically local people who were buying from me at that point. And then I started selling on Etsy, but I gave myself an entire month if it was a custom order because I knew that I needed to give myself plenty of time to make the item and then to ship it. And because I was always taking my business very seriously, I wanted to make sure that I under-promised and I over-delivered on every single thing that I did. But as far as opening a physical store, I have watched way too many episodes of Shark Tank, and it's convinced me that I would never, ever want to have a physical business. There is so much overhead when it comes to something like that. To me, it is not worth it. I am a very risk-averse person. I would never go into debt for a business. I would never put our family's security at risk to start any kind of a business, to run any kind of a business. I have always wanted to run my business on a cash basis. If I can't afford it, then I'm not doing it. The next question is, what is the hardest part about starting a business? What was the biggest hurdle for you personally, and what tips do you have to overcome these challenges? The number one hardest thing for me about starting a business was changing my mindset. I've struggled with self-doubt my entire life, and I didn't even realize it until I started my business. And I had so many, not voices, they are my own voice. I don't mean that I heard voices. Thoughts that kept running through my head were, well, you can't do this. You're not smart enough to do this. You're not talented enough to do this. You don't know what you're doing. Who do you think you are? All of these negative statements that kept coming into my mind. And as I started working on my business, I started to challenge those thoughts, and I read books, I've listened to podcasts, I watch YouTube videos. So my biggest tip would be to start to look for those resources. One book that I read recently that was fantastic is Atomic Habits. That is a great one for building those habits. And one of those habits is to stop the negative self-talk. It's those obstacles coming from my own brain that are the biggest hurdles that I've had to overcome. And I imagine that that's the way it is with so many of you as well. The next question is, how do you prepare your items for shipping, and do you include a handmade tag on the doll or the toy? When I was selling handmade toys, one of my favorite things to do was to put a little handmade tag and a matching ribbon and put them in a pretty little box with tissue paper. I loved doing all of those little details because I think that that makes it such a special moment for someone when they open their handmade gift. I just thought it was so much fun. The other thing that I started doing was I have amigurumi adoption kits, and I will link to those in the description box below. I sell them in my Etsy shop, and these are so much fun because it is a little adoption certificate, and I have lots of other little goodies in those kits to make these very special. And the tagline for the amigurumi adoption kits is "Make a memory, not just a toy." And it reminded me of when I was a kid and you got your Cabbage Patch Kid. Now, I was a kid back in the 80s and I was obsessed with Cabbage Patch Kids, and they came with an adoption certificate, and it just made it so special for me. And so I thought I wanted to make that for amigurumi toys, and I just think it's a really fun little addition. Any way that you can make your toys feel really special with that packaging, I think is so wonderful. The next question from Sparky4786 is, do you still enjoy crocheting? That sounds so crazy because your channel and work is so amazing, but I've always wondered about folks that turn a passion into a business. Is it still enjoyable down the road? This was a really common question, and I totally understand why, but almost all of what I do for my business is behind a computer or behind the camera. Not behind the camera, I'm in front of the camera. That's almost all of what I do. I still crochet for enjoyment. My crochet time is my time. I don't even consider that part of my business because I'm not selling finished objects. Now, when I was selling finished objects, I did feel that when I was doing custom orders. When I was making orders for a customer that they ordered it from me and they told me what they wanted, I stopped enjoying crocheting, and that's why I stopped doing it. But when I was making toys and just selling them after I made them, I actually still enjoyed my crochet time. It just didn't like me because I ended up with an injury. Now in my business, I still love to crochet. It's one of my favorite things to do, and the joy of that has never left me. The most common question is also one that Christina asked. How do you keep track of the hours that you work on a project for a commission? Also, how do you price your pieces without undervaluing your work? Now, I have an entire video for how to price your amigurumi toys, but this would apply to any handmade item that you are going to sell. So I'm going to link that in the description box below, because if I answered this question now, it would take the entire video. So I will leave a link for it. So after you finish this video, go and watch that one. The next question is from Nurse Lisa from Ohio. How much time do you work? How hard is it to learn to edit videos? Also, how do you juggle work-life balance when you work literally all over the home? How do you stay inspired? I do work full-time, but it is kind of difficult to figure out how many hours a week I work because I do start in the morning after I do my morning routine, and then I take a small break for lunch. I typically finish around 4 o'clock, and that's when I like to go for my walk. I start dinner. I do other things around the house, but then in the evenings I almost always am working on something, whether I am working on a thumbnail on my computer, or if I'm designing something or crocheting something. That is technically work time, but somehow doesn't feel like work time because I'm usually with my family during that time. If we're just watching TV in the evenings, I'm almost always doing something. Sometimes I'm answering comments on YouTube, but the way that I really stay inspired is that I still love crocheting and knitting. I love it so much. It's never gotten boring for me. I find new things to make and new things to learn, and I think that's what keeps me so interested in crocheting and knitting, is that there's no way that you could ever know everything about crocheting or knitting, and I think that's what keeps it exciting. And I love yarn. I mean, who doesn't love yarn? The next question is from Reese Cup 3113. How do you start a social media following? I'm honestly terrified to make a shop page because I'm not really into social media anymore. I haven't had good experiences in the past, and I'm apprehensive about that essential part of having an online business. I am extremely sympathetic to this question, but I don't like social media. And YouTube is technically a social media platform, but for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like that to me. But I struggle a lot to show up on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I have accounts on all three of them, but I really struggle with it. I like to be here on YouTube. And in the beginning of my business, whatever Instagram needed, I did it. I needed to post every day. I posted every day. I posted at the right time. I spent so much time commenting and finding other crochet accounts to interact with, and it was absolutely exhausting and it was soul-sucking to me. So what I've done now is I'm trying to make it work for me. I post when I have something to post, and I know that it's a little bit easier for me now because I have built up a small following. I don't have a huge account on any of those platforms. And I'm not willing to do what I would need to do to grow really big on any of those platforms. Also, I just fundamentally don't like how something like Instagram, your post is really only relevant for about 24 hours and then it kind of goes away. But on YouTube, people are looking for YouTube content years after it's been published. I watch videos that are 6 months old, a year old, 2 years old, 4 years old. It doesn't matter to me as long as it's the content that I want to interact with. So for that reason, I don't really care so much about what Instagram and Facebook and TikTok want me to do. I don't care. But I will say this is a place where you can market what you do. You can share what you make. And I would encourage you to make it work for you. You don't work for it, if that makes sense. And I know it's so hard to say, but literally do not care about your social media numbers. I have friends who are running very successful crochet-based businesses that are not super active on social media. So just know that you can build a business. You're going to need to have some presence on social media, but it doesn't have to be at the level that some other creators are. There are those of us who are making full-time incomes and not on social media all the time. Know that it is possible, but you're gonna have to get creative. The next question is, how do I avoid the comparison trap and feeling like other small business owners are a lot more successful than me? And this is something that I really struggled with in the past. I'm not saying that I still don't have moments where I feel that jealousy rising up and feeling like, well, I'm not as successful as that person. I totally get it. We're all gonna feel that way, and it's normal and it's okay, but we just can't stay stuck in that place. What I try to do now is to compare myself to my past self. So for example, right now it's January of 2024. I'm gonna go back and compare how I have done with my sales, with my ad revenue from January of 2023. Let's compare those two. I'm not going to compare myself to another creator who is doing way better than me because that just doesn't feel good. It doesn't scratch that itch. It doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form. So my best advice is to try to limit that and celebrate your own victories. And if you haven't been in business long enough to be able to compare year over year, try even month over month. Look back and see, am I getting better? Is there a trend? Now, it's definitely going to go up and down a little bit, but over time, am I making progress? And if you haven't earned any money yet, that's okay. Are you showing up consistently? Are you doing work that you're proud of? That's where you can celebrate, and instead of comparing yourself to someone else, look at all of the progress that you have made. Sarah asked, I have a question about your cats and potential customer allergies. She went on to explain that she has pets in her home and wants to know how concerned about pet hair contamination should she be when she is selling her handmade items. And Sarah, you asked if you were overthinking things, and I will say in love that I do think that you're overthinking this a little bit. When I was making finished items, I definitely ran my hand over things and got any dust or any pet hair off of them. But I also think that if someone wants to buy something that is handmade, they probably don't have a severe pet allergy, because I think that if somebody had a very severe allergy, they are probably not going to buy handmade items. They are going to buy something from a manufacturer that has a lot more quality control. So I really think that you don't need to worry about that too much. The only thing that I would be very cautious of is if you smoke or you live with a smoker and you're trying to sell finished items, that would be something that I would be potentially worried about, just because I know that there are people who can get triggered with their asthma, with any kind of tobacco smell. But if it's just pet hair and it's not obvious that there's pet hair on there, I just don't think you need to worry about it too much. I would get one of those little lint rollers and roll it over the item just to make sure you're picking up anything that you can't even visibly see. The next question is from Jessie. My state is on the poor end, but there are a few cities where all the tourists go. Those are the places small handmade shops go to build a business or set up booths. How would I go about making sure I'm catering to the high-end clients as well as the low-end clients? This is such an interesting question, and if I was in your position, I would be spending some time trying to get into the minds of your potential customers. I would do a little recon and go into those booths that are in the touristy areas and looking at what are they selling. Are they selling all high-end things? Are they selling a mix of high-end and low-end? What is the price point that they're selling these items for? I would really try to figure out what's working and what doesn't seem to be working just by going through those booths in person. With your recon and research, I would want to know, are people from all walks of life going to be wanting to buy your items? I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get into the mind of your potential customers to see what motivates them, what do they want to buy, what price point will they buy at, and there may be some trial and error during that time, but I think it will be worth it in the long run for you to spend a little bit of time digging up all of that information, and good luck to you. The next question is from Fur Mama, and she asked, I mail my amigurumi dolls domestically, but it is expensive. How do you save or reduce mailing costs? When I was selling finished toys, especially on Etsy, I always calculated the cost into the price of the toy. I was never going to pay the shipping for the toy. The customer needs to pay the shipping. You can offer free shipping, but what you've done is already calculated the price of that toy into your total cost, because you shouldn't be paying for that shipping on your own. The customer should always be paying for the shipping, whether you call it free shipping or you tack it on at the end. Now, this is the question that I talked about at the beginning of the video. This is the one that I want you to avoid making this mistake. Media Bunny 4106 asked, from what I understand, it's actually not viable in terms of income to rely only on selling finished products. Is this true? Is it necessary to sell patterns in order to make a reasonable income? This is the one mistake that I see most crochet business owners make in the beginning of their business, and I definitely did it. I have never seen someone be able to make a full-time income by selling finished products only. Now, I'm not saying that it can't happen. I've never seen it myself. So if you are someone who you make all of your own finished products and you're making a full-time income from it, I think that that is amazing. And please share your secrets down in the comment section for us. But I've never seen that happen personally in my own business and in the businesses of friends that I have who are making full-time incomes. That isn't to say that that can't be part of how you make your money, but it can't be the only thing. And what I want everyone to learn is that the number one thing you need to do as a business owner is to diversify your streams of income. You never want to have one, because that sets you up for risk. You are at risk in your business if you have one stream of income. So you're always trying to add a new stream of income. So let me give you an example, something that I thought about earlier today. Let's just say that you enjoy selling your handmade items at a market, and you do well. You sell your items, you're making some good money with it, but you're kind of tapped out because you cannot crochet any more than you already are. And you can't go up on your prices anymore. You've kind of tapped out where you're at. The thing that you could do To build an additional stream of income would be to start a YouTube channel about selling your handmade items at markets. There are a lot of people who would love to know your secrets. How do you do it? How do you make money from this? How do you price your items? How do you display them? All of the things that other people would want to know. So if you started a YouTube channel and you were able to monetize that YouTube channel, you could start receiving ad income. So that is passive income. You make that video one time and that video continues to make money over time. You're not going to do all of these things at once. You're going to start one part of your business, and when you get that running well, you're going to add a new stream of income. Okay, so you've got your markets, you've got your YouTube channel. Now we're going to move on. Let's say now you've decided, I'm doing pretty well with this. I'm going to write an ebook. I'm going to sell my ebook on Etsy, maybe on my own website, and I'm going to start selling that to people so that they learn how to do markets. Maybe that goes well. You've got your ebook going and it's selling regularly. Now you decide, I actually think that I could create a course for people to sell at markets, because I'm still selling at markets. I'm doing great at markets still. And I've got my YouTube channel and that's rolling along. I've got my ebook and that is selling. Now I'm going to create a course so that I can go even more in depth on how to sell at markets. I can get really nitty gritty and give people access to me to ask all of their questions. So now you look and you have all of these different streams of income. So what I want you to know is that as you are building a business, you want to add those streams of income. This is the most important thing that you have to learn. You've got to get it in your brain, and you just add one at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. Work on one thing, and then once you get that thing going and you feel really good about it, then you're going to add a new thing. It's like spinning the plates. You get one spinning, you keep it spinning, and then you add the second one. And now you're balancing two, and then you add another one. In the beginning, that can sound really scary, but I promise it's like anything. Once you learn something and you learn how to do it and you feel like, okay, I got this, then you can add something else. So I love this question, and I think you're thinking in the right way, and I just want you all to know this, and it's just the most important part of building your crochet business. The next question is from Brock97. I want to know about the licensing stuff. Like, do you have to make a deal with companies to release crochet patterns of their stuff like Harry Potter or Star Wars? So one of my online friends is Elise, and she has written multiple books for licensed characters. She's done Harry Potter and she has also done Pokemon. I think she's done some other ones, but I just can't think of them right now. She was approached by the publisher, and the publisher has the license. That is the only way that I would touch licensed characters with a 10-foot pole, because I have heard horror stories from people who have lost their entire shops. I even heard about one woman who was sued by a company because she created a pattern that looked like one of their licensed characters, and she didn't even know it looked like one of their licensed characters. I'm telling you right now, don't do licensed characters. Now, if you want to make licensed characters and you're going to be giving them away and you're giving them to your friends and family, no problem. But if I was selling them, there is no way I would not sell a finished one. I would not create a pattern with a licensed character. No way. But I just would stay away from anything that could potentially cause me any kind of legal issues. I wanted to take a moment to share a little bit of my story of how I went from having no business background at all, from being a homeschool mom of 20 years, and now I am running a full-time crochet business. Really, my business started by accident because I just started naturally sharing the things that I was making on Facebook and Instagram, and a couple of people in my local community reached out to ask if they could buy one of my amigurumi toys, and I thought, oh my goodness, you're gonna pay me $20 to crochet this little toy? Absolutely. Because I thought, well, this is gonna be a way that I can crochet toys, make a little money, pay for my supplies, and be able to not clutter up my house with all kinds of toys so that I could make them and give them away, actually sell them. And at the time, we had 2 kids in college, so having a little extra income, even if it it was just $20, $60, $100 a month made a difference. I continued taking orders from people that I knew locally, and I started to get burnt out pretty quickly because I was just crocheting things that other people wanted. The list of people that wanted a toy from me kept growing, and I just felt very anxious about all of these orders that I needed to fill, and I could only crochet so much every single day, and I did end up with a raging case of tendonitis in my elbow because I was pushing my body beyond really what I could handle. At the same time, I was coming to the end of my career as a homeschool mom. I had homeschooled all 4 of my kids for 20 years, and the last one was graduating in May of 2020 and going off to college, and I knew I was going to have a lot of time on my hands, but I also knew that I needed something that I could still do in the home and that was going to be very flexible for my family because I have an adult disabled son that I needed to be available for on a daily basis. So working outside of the home and adjusting to someone else's schedule and working outside of the home was going to be very difficult because my husband also has a job outside of the home and he travels a great deal. So it wasn't like, okay, I could work when he was home. It wasn't going to work that way. So I started to really think about what could I do? And at that time, Lisa Bass from Farmhouse on Boone came out with her Create Your Blog Dream course, and I'd been following her for a while, and I really admired how she went from a mom of little kids being at home and turning this into a career where her husband was actually able to retire from his job and come work for her. And I thought, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could make some money doing blogging. And while I was learning about blogging, Lisa stressed in her course that if you were going to write a blog post, you might as well make a YouTube video to go with it. And this was 2018. And I thought, well, I don't have anything to lose. Why not? And Lisa had really found a lot of success by being on YouTube. And I was really scared to do this. And I'm talking zero video editing skills. I did not know how to do anything. I started on my iPhone. It was even an old version in 2018. But I thought, I need to try this. This could really help my family out if I was able to work from home, generate some income. And my goal at that point, I thought, if I could just make $100 extra a month, that would pay for all of my crochet supplies, and I could crochet with any yarn that I wanted, because if I could spend $100 a month, that would be wonderful. And once I was able to generate $100 a month, I thought, whoa, what if I could generate $500 a month? That was my next goal. And once I reached that goal, I thought, hey, can I generate $1,000 of income? And remember, I wasn't just doing one thing. I started with just selling finished items, and then I moved on to blogging, which blogging has never been super successful for me. Even to this day, I don't make a lot of money on my blog income, but I was able to start adding affiliate links so that I was making a little bit of money with affiliate links. And then a year and a half into my YouTube career, I got monetized on YouTube, and in the beginning that didn't make very much money either. But when I started to combine all those things, I started to make a little bit of money. And once I hit that $1,000 a month, I knew if I can make $1,000 a month and not know what I'm doing a lot of the time, that I could grow this into a full-time income. Now that took until 2023. Up until 2023, I was making a part-time income. So I just want you to know that if you're feeling overwhelmed, you feel like I don't have any skills, I don't know how to do anything, I'm technologically challenged. I was exactly where you are right now, just a few years ago. And I promise that if you will commit to yourself, that you will learn the things that you need to learn. Whether you're Googling it, you get a course, you search out opportunities, you just commit to yourself and to learn these skills, you will build one upon the other. And it's not going to be overnight. I will never say that this is a get-rich-quick plan, and I think most of us are never going to get rich doing this, but it can be a wonderful way to be able to provide for your family, provide for yourself, and feel good about the work that you're doing in the world. And I am here to cheer you on. I hope that you will take the leap if you're feeling that stirring inside of you and you really want to do this. Know that I am behind you every step of the way. Please leave your comments in the comment section below because I read every single one of them and I try to respond to every single one of them. And make sure to watch these other videos about building your crochet business. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe and happy stitching.